Hi, everyone. So today is one of those days where I was planning on doing this recording for tomorrow. I'm actually doing this a day early, but I was planning on recording and then something happened today that put me in a bit of a different energy state. And it was a conversation that I had with someone that was very complex because while during the conversation, I felt like I was very much confidently holding a kind of line in a way, like showing up in the energy that I wanted to show up in. And again, there was this feeling of like holding a line. But after the conversation, I felt this wave of emotional energy, almost like everything that I was able to kind of hold in that moment was sort of all crashing around me a bit. But what my guides were sort of explaining to me about this is that it wasn't a negative moment. In a way, it was a test of how far I had come in my own life when it came to understanding my journey and being able to communicate that journey and myself in a confident way. But it was also a form of an activation in a sense. And the reason that I'm sharing this, because I don't often share things that are too personal, but I wanted to share this because after all of this happened, I had kind of been contemplating just waiting on recording until tomorrow morning and letting myself kind of sleep off some of this energy. But my guides actually were really urging me to still do this reading because what they were saying is that I actually am in the best energy to do this particular reading because of the group of people that this is going to resonate with. And while I don't often share things that are too personal, this felt important to share. And the reason being, this is the basis and the starting point of this reading. So if you are connecting with the message today, I'm getting that you may have recently gone through an experience like this, whether it was a communication with another person or whether it was an event or an experience in your life or an environment that you were in. I feel that you've gone through some kind of situation recently where you were in a way feeling as though you were holding some kind of line, whether it was requiring you to stand in a more confident place than you're usually comfortable standing in, or to be a bit more bold, or to be more clearly communicative of how you're feeling. I'm hearing something about you holding both softness and strength in this moment. Now, if this doesn't relate to something super specific for you, then I'm getting that this may be more general in your life, that you're coming to this place that your guides want you to know is so beautiful and so profound, even though at times it feels really raw and vulnerable. In fact, a message I'm getting here is that if you're feeling raw and you're feeling vulnerable, then that's actually a sign that you are right on track, even if that does create doubt for you at times. But I also really want to talk about this concept of holding a line, because I feel that many of you are actually holding some kind of line right now, emotionally, energetically. Well, I was going to say or spiritually, but then my guide said it's actually and. Emotionally, energetically, and spiritually, you are holding a line. And this is a very powerful thing, and we're going to dive into why. But I also want to share with you that I feel this reading is going to connect most with divine feminines, because I'm feeling a very strong feminine charge around this reading, and I'm going to be speaking on that more in depth. But of course, we all have a balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine energy internally. And when I use these terms in my readings, they don't necessarily connect to particular genders. They connect to energy dynamics. So take them however they resonate, leave whatever doesn't resonate for you. There is so much that wants to come through here. This is going to be a bit of a strange reading because it's very off the cuff. And again, this is one of those that was just I knew that this is what I needed to talk about when this happened, because I knew that even the fact that I went through this experience meant that it was something that I was meant to create with and speak on and share here. And there's a few things I want to say about that as well, because I feel that you're getting to a place on your journey where you are really being guided to realize that within every experience, there's some form of an activation, and that if something you're experiencing has an emotional charge for you, whether you're labeling it as negative or positive, know that even in those moments you would label as negative, because it carries that emotional charge, it is a highly creative potential energy. It holds creative potential. So you can take that emotional energy and you can transmute it. You can change its form. You can put it into something that is actually outside of you, that lives and breathes outside of you, instead of carrying it in your being. And so many of us are learning how to do that because we've been holding so much within ourselves. You're not meant to carry around all of that emotionally charged energy indefinitely, even though, of course, you are an empath, so you feel all of that so strongly, but you're meant to be processing it. You're meant to be letting it flow through you and be created through you. And you feeling and expressing that emotional energy, even if it is in the form of tears or a sad or low moment, it's actually part of the process of transmutation. It's you allowing yourself to feel everything in a world where so many people are so emotionally repressed. And it is challenging at times to be someone who is so soft and raw and open. That's also why you're learning how to hold your strength at the same time. And I'm so proud of you. Whatever you're going through in your life, especially if you're dealing with similar themes as what I'm describing here, I want you to know that you are not alone. And I also want you to recognize how far you've come, because if you've gone through a moment like this, like what I described recently, or this is a theme in your life where you have to kind of step up and almost hold some sort of line for yourself that in a way feels fragile because it's new. I'm hearing it's something that's never been done before. That's also a statement that came through from my guides before I started this reading, that you are doing something that's never really been done before, whether it's a new way of thinking or believing, or I'm hearing maybe you're not limiting yourself by other people's limitations, and that in this way has never been done before, whether it's in your family, your community, your social environment, your society, whatever this is for you. You're not allowing yourself to be limited by other people's standards and perceptions of limitation. And that is the line that you are holding. Now, of course, how that looks for you is going to be very specific to your circumstances or situation. But you're holding some kind of line here that is actually really important. And that's why you're feeling it so strongly. And if you are at times feeling emotional, like what I described, where you leave the conversation and you feel like you did so well holding that line, but then all of those emotions come rushing in, know that that emotional moment afterwards, that kind of come down, that sort of crash, it kind of for some reason is reminding me of when you do something that is a push for you that you're so proud of. Like, let's say you are a musician and you are on stage performing for the first time. In the moment, you might feel so proud of how you stood on that stage so confidently, and you're feeling all of this like adrenaline in a way. But then afterwards, there might be a crash where you're like, whoa, I'm crying or feeling emotional and I don't even know why. That can happen, of course, after that adrenaline crash. That doesn't mean that whatever you did wasn't successful or wasn't something to be proud of. In fact, that emotional crash at times can actually be a sign that you pushed yourself into new territory and that you actually did succeed in doing something for yourself that you've never really done in quite that way before. Does anyone else sometimes experience this, where sometimes after a moment where you actually feel so proud of yourself, or you achieve some kind of milestone, or you finally do something that you've been wanting to do for a while, or you've been working towards doing, does anyone else ever sometimes get an emotional crash afterwards? Because what I'm really getting is kind of that theme or that energy of you like pushing yourself into new territory, but then at times you feel emotional afterwards. Now, for some of you, this is happening in like a purely spiritual and energetic sense, because I've spoken a lot recently on a lot of highs and lows in the energy, and how one minute you could feel absolutely on top of the world, sort of like a performer on the stage for the first time, and feeling all of that excitement and adrenaline and that rush. And then the next minute, it's like we've been going through these lows where you might actually feel fear or anxiety or uncertainty or stagnancy, or just like this crash in the energy. And I feel like part of what my guides want to communicate today is that that crash moment afterwards is not a sign that you are backsliding. In fact, it's actually a sign you are progressing into such new territory that it's sort of freaking out your nervous system a little bit, in actually a good way. It's something that you have to adjust to. It's like you're actually achieving new peaks of something, whether it's new peaks of happiness or success. I heard lovability, which of course you are lovable in an unlimited way, but I feel some of you are really beginning to realize that lovability for the first time. Like you're having experiences where you might feel more loved and more supported than ever before, and then get a crash afterwards. Again, that is all normal, because the crashes are just you really adjusting. Your system is adjusting to new levels of joy or happiness or excitement or whatever it is for you. And many of these things have to be worked kind of like a muscle. So there's something very important to understand, that the emotional crash or the burnout feeling afterwards isn't a sign that you are moving in the wrong direction, or that you shouldn't keep pushing yourself in those ways. It's just a sign that you are building up some kind of ability, like a muscle, that you are adjusting to something. And sometimes the muscle that you are building or strengthening is simply your capacity to hold and to receive more love and more support. I mean, that in itself is a training exercise. And I feel like that's coming up for a reason, because many divine feminines are definitely experiencing being pressed in terms of what they are allowing themselves to receive. Let me know if you've been experiencing that. I know that's definitely been a theme for the divine feminine, but I'm hearing you better get used to it. You better get used to being so loved and so supported, because it's only going to happen more for you. And that's why you're being adjusted to it now. So I feel that when it comes to holding this line, when I say you've crossed into new territory, I feel I'm really speaking to a group of generational curse breakers here. So there might be something directly related to your family or your feminine ancestry, your feminine line. This doesn't have to be the case. It also could be more of a collective thing. And of course, it is that, even if it is also specific to you and your family's line, it is still having that collective impact. But I feel as though you are healing certain patterns around limitation, especially as a feminine energy, that have never been addressed or healed. And it's almost like churning up and uprooting all of this emotionality. And so you might be feeling some of that emotion, because what I keep getting is that the way that you're living your life is so different from how the people before you have lived their lives, and that you are really like contradicting the status quo in some kind of way, or going against the grain, but you're moving in alignment with your soul as you're doing that. And so you're following what feels right to you, and you're following the flow of your own alignment, but somehow that's directly putting you at odds with certain collective idea systems or belief systems or ways of being. And so this kind of contradiction is then bringing a sort of backlash in a way, either internally within you, you're feeling a lot uprooted that was passed down to you ancestrally, but also at times it seems to trigger extreme reactions out of people who come into contact with you. Because I'm hearing that seeing someone like you who is living in their own freedom to this kind of extent is very triggering for people, both in positive and negative ways. You living in this kind of freedom is freeing other people, but people respond in different ways to freedom. Some people are more comfortable in a cage. And so when you tell them, no, this is the doorway out, you don't have to live this way, you don't have to be so limited. For some people, that actually triggers their sense of safety and security because they found security in their own sense of limitations. It really triggers and uproots the stories that they've been telling themselves to maybe protect themselves or to keep themselves safe, but those stories are limiting them at the same time. I feel like those are the stories that you really highlight, that you shine a light on. The stories people tell themselves that both keep them limited, but also keep them feeling some level of safety. And so sometimes just your presence feels destabilizing to people in a way that they can't even quite explain, but it's actually because of the reason they're feeling destabilized is literally because you are awakening them. I mean, they're feeling their own awakening starting to happen and then trying to shut it down. And at times, this can cause them to project those limitations onto you because they feel threatened by your own freedom. But really what they're threatened by is the way that your freedom shines a light on them and wakes them up to how they may be limiting themselves. And I feel like you're doing this on like an individual level with maybe your own family or people you interact with on a regular basis, but you're also doing this on a collective level. I mean, you are literally like this glitch in the matrix that people can't quite figure out. I get the sense of people constantly trying to understand you or to put you in some kind of box, but it never works because you are undefined, you are unlimited. Like there's no way to put you under some kind of label or some kind of box. Like you're sort of an enigma in this universe. And I feel that at times there's been a part of you wondering, like, why can't I just be normal or be somehow, why can't I just even like fully define or understand myself in that clear way and then be able to articulate that to others? But you just defy being restricted in that way. And your soul knows on a deeper level that you came here to be undefined, that you didn't come here to be labeled or restricted or put in a box. And so it's like you have this constant inner rebellion going on where when anyone, or even when your conscious human self has tried to like put you into a box or limit you or say, okay, we're just going to go down this pathway in a very concrete way. And you've like tried to carve out these linear paths for yourself to get some greater sense of security or stability. But your inner rebel is so resistant to that because you know that you came here to keep people on their toes in a sense. You came here to be constantly evolving, living in alignment with your own soul, which your soul is constantly evolving, which is why you are too. And you live in such close connection to that evolution internally and are never willing to stifle it in a way that makes people uncomfortable at times, because I feel like you're always kind of questioning the limits that people place on you or on themselves or on society artificially. And it's almost like you don't even have to use your words. Your very existence, your very energy is this questioning of the status quo. And so I feel that, again, people have very extreme reactions to you. Either they're very magnetically drawn to you because they sense that you have this ability to wake them up to their own potential. And so people can feel just after one conversation with you, like they are being realigned with a higher version of themselves. Like suddenly, I feel like sometimes you have a conversation with someone and suddenly they're pursuing childhood dreams or goals that they may have left behind 20 years ago just because they talked to you for 5 minutes. And you may not even know about that, but the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I feel you're meant to more consciously recognize how powerful your impact is on others, how powerful your conversation is, your energy. Moments that you share with others literally leave impressions on them that last a lifetime. You have unforgettable magnetic energy. But this is also exactly why people sometimes feel like they are almost a bit afraid of you, or they might keep their distance from you. You might at times feel like there are certain people that like you have to be careful because you can't be in a space or in an environment too long before you almost start attracting this kind of attention where certain people will just like be so magnetized to you that you have to set strong boundaries. Otherwise, your energy will just get entirely drained and you won't be able to pour it into yourself and caring for yourself. So I feel like this is definitely one pitfall for you. I feel that like you almost tend to attract a strange kind of attention or energy when you're, again, like in a space for too long. Like you might notice this if you work at a certain job or you are continuously visiting like the same coffee shop or the same locations or places and you're frequenting somewhere. I feel like it's not long before you've had like so many people coming up to you, like telling you their whole life story, wanting to be around you all the time or something like that. Or you attract some of these types of individuals and it makes it hard because you don't want to be cold or unfriendly, but also you have to set self-supportive boundaries and people tend to want more and more of your energy. But on the other hand, I feel that like sometimes people will just have a negative reaction to you that seems to baffle you or come out of nowhere, or you might feel at times like, this is such a strange dynamic. I don't know who I'm speaking to here, but you might feel at times like, on the one hand, you're so magnetic that people like, certain people just want to be around you all the time and like can't get enough of you, but it can drain you. But then you also may feel like you really struggle to make true, deeper friendships with people that it's very reciprocated and balanced with, that don't have this like, I don't know, like need to be around your energy all the time, sort of to like absorb it or to like take it. Not that they're doing that intentionally, but I just feel like you get into these dynamics a lot where you kind of feel like, if you're being honest, you're not really getting much out of that friendship or connection because you're always the one like listening or giving advice or kind of like pouring into the other person and then leaving feeling more drained. And it's like really hard for you to find connections if you're being honest with yourself. And I know this sounds kind of bad. Like I feel if someone who didn't experience this kind of dynamic heard what I was talking about here, they would feel almost like offended or like, I don't know, like you're being, it's not like a narcissism thing. This is just a reality. I feel like this is speaking to something you experience that you probably don't really talk about with anyone because it's something that you know people wouldn't really be able to understand. But it's this feeling of loneliness that comes from actually being so magnetic. Like you are so magnetic that it's lonely because you do tend to attract in people who want some of your light or your attention or your energy. But at the same time, you have to set very strong boundaries to protect yourself, and you long for connections that are deeper and more reciprocated. But it's really hard to meet someone that's on your level. And again, this is where many people would not understand, but I am really knowing that if you've listened this far in this reading, I feel you are part of the group that will know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is what I love about this platform and this channel. I love how even though so many of us who share similar backgrounds and feelings and stories are scattered maybe all over the world, because of technology now, we can meet and connect in a way that in past lives, in 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, the only way we'd be meeting is probably in consciousness, like in the astral realm, probably mostly unconsciously or spiritually. But now, because of technology, we're able to meet and connect with people who share similar frequency on a soul level, similar energy, even though physically, and this is often intentional, but we are often scattered around the world, again, intentionally to shine that kind of specific light or to exude that kind of particular energy in different places all over the world. So we are often disconnected from each other. But anyway, another thing I want to say on this is, and this is where I know I hesitate to even say this, but I know you'll know what I'm talking about. When I say that not everyone's on your level, I know that you will not take this in a narcissistic way because that's not your nature, but someone who doesn't understand this dynamic might take it that way. But what I mean by this is you are someone who is very ancient on a soul level, so you naturally have a kind of depth about you spiritually and an energy about you spiritually where you hold a lot of ancient wisdom like in your cells, in your energy, in your aura. And so when I say you're so magnetic that you often feel lonely, which sounds like a contradiction, what I mean by that is because you carry this very ancient frequency that people recognize on some level, it's almost as though you are like the deepest point in the ocean, imagine, which I think is Marianas Trench, if I remember correctly. You're the deepest point in the ocean, let's just say for the sake of this example. And let's say that you encounter someone who is like on the shallow end of your ocean. Since they may just have this different level of consciousness based on, let's say that they are a newer soul and maybe they've not lived as many past lives. So they may be more on the shallow end of consciousness and they're very happy there because for them, that's as far as they want to go. They may not have the intention as a soul to go any deeper in terms of their consciousness because that is just not where they're at spiritually. It would be overwhelming to them. So when they meet someone like you that's at this Marianas Trench point, they naturally feel like, whoa, this is someone who gets it. This is someone who understands me because you understand, like they're on the shallow end of your ocean. So you understand them like completely in a way. But what they don't realize is they're only scratching the surface of you. So they will often make this mistake of thinking like they understand you at your depth because you understand them at their depth, but it doesn't really go both ways. And so there's this natural imbalance in the connection where they leave feeling so deeply understood and you leave feeling like you kind of gave a lot to that conversation or helped or inspired that person, but it was also very draining for you in the process because you hold all of this depth that you know they don't have the ability to connect with, and you respect and honor their journey and understand that that would be overwhelming to them. But it also leaves you feeling like, wow, I wish I was understood at my depth. And I really hope that this is making sense. I feel like for whoever this reading is for, and this just feels so specific, but I feel like so much of this reading was simply to make you feel more seen and more understood and to understand more of your unique purpose here on earth. But I also have to say that I really feel you're reaching this point on your journey where you are going to be connecting with more people, maybe even people for the first time for some of you who actually can meet you at your depth. And for some of you, maybe you've already encountered some of these individuals. For others of you, this is something that is going to be happening for you. It's something to look forward to because I know that this has been a very rare experience, if it's even happened at all, where you've met someone who can really connect with you on that deeper level. And I feel like those experiences for you are just so few and far between. But I'm getting that it's going to be time for you to actually connect with people that give to you in an equal way because they have the capacity to, because they can meet you at your depth. Because the thing about people who often don't give to you in a balanced way is that many of them don't have the capacity to, because they may be, again, like a newer soul, or they may not have the desire or the intention as a soul to go as deep or to have that kind of level of expanded consciousness right now. It might not be the purpose of this lifetime for them. And so I feel that you are going to be connecting with people who are actually giving to you in an equal way because they naturally have that capacity. And there's going to be a mutual effortlessness in that. And I feel that this is going to be coming in because you're entering a brand new phase of your soul's journey where you are meant to be supported in the way that you've always been supporting others, where you are meant to be seen in the way that you've always been seeing others. Now, with this is going to come some of those emotional crashes that we talked about earlier, naturally, because when this kind of love and support comes in, and for some of you, maybe it's already started coming in, or you're feeling like your edges are being pressed in that way. As this comes in, your system has to adjust to it because you aren't going to be used to being this loved or this supported or this seen. And it's going to feel really good, but it's also going to really open up your capacity to receive. And if there's any lingering wounds around your own worthiness, any part of you that feels like, whoa, am I worthy of being given to like this, or being adored like this, or supported or loved, or having someone listen to me for hours in the way that I always listen to other people for hours and give so much to them. if you have any lingering kind of doubts around that, they're really going to be brought to the surface. But this is, of course, a good thing because it's part of you expanding to a point where you're ready to receive the kind of love that you've been giving other people your entire life. So with the Eight of Swords in the upright position, and the Eight of Wands in the upright position, I really see this speaking to you finding freedom for yourself, and in doing so, you freeing entire generations through your family's line, and things really beginning to move forward very quickly for you. But I'm getting that in a way, sometimes as you do this work, you feel the reverberations of the programs that you are collapsing. So I've spoken recently about especially divine feminines at times feeling like random waves of anxiety or self-doubt or uncertainty. Know that these are not signs that you are reverting. This is not a sign that you are backsliding. These are actually signs of the limiting belief systems that you are collapsing through your own confidence and standing in your own freedom through the things that you are doing that have never been done before. They are the reverberations of the chains that you are breaking. And I feel like that's a really beautiful pausing point for this reading. If you are stopping off with me here, then I want to say thank you for listening this far, and know that you are never alone on this journey, even if it feels sometimes that way. And I also want to say that the work that you're doing has such a more powerful and profound impact than I feel that you have given yourself credit for. So I hope that if nothing else, this reading inspires you to take a moment today to put a hand over your heart in a deep breath and to tell yourself, your inner self, thank you for how far you've come, and for the fact that you've always continued taking that next step forward and pressing these limits that society has imposed artificially, not just on you, but on the ancestors who came before you and on entire collectives. You have been breaking these chains and pressing these limits and holding a line here that is sending out ripple effects that are freeing so many others as well as a result that you are doing here. So thank you for that work that you are doing in your own way, whatever that looks like for you. I know it's really unique and individual to each of us. And I hope that this channel can be a support for you along that journey. And if you would like to join me on that journey of freeing ourselves and stepping into our most expanded version of self, I would love for you to subscribe to the Magnetize Yourself channel here on YouTube. And again, I'm so grateful for our beautiful community here. And I was really feeling that gratitude so strongly earlier today as well, because I feel like we are all healing and growing and evolving together. And it's such a beautiful thing to witness and be part of. Now, if you're feeling a resonance with this reading and desiring to continue on with this material that's been coming up here, then I will be continuing this in an extended version of the reading. So I channel extended readings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and these are available through either my Patreon or my YouTube memberships. So you can join from either place depending on your preference, and the link to access today's extended reading is in the pinned comment and description box underneath this video. I'm going to close this reading with a final Rumi Oracle card. And this is kind of strange, but the reason that I remembered to do Rumi at the end of this reading is I had a lot of vivid dreams last night. And in one of these dreams, I was having a conversation with one of you in the astral, and you were telling me that you really found healing through the Rumi portion of the readings. And you were requesting that I keep doing the Rumi portion of the reading, or do that in my next video, because you had been healing through the Rumi quotes that I'd been reading. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm not sure who I was connecting with in consciousness there, but I felt inspired because of that to pull a Rumi card for today's reading. I completely forgot about that dream also until right at the end of this reading, but I guess that's right when I was supposed to share it. So whoa, okay, 2 cards came out here. And these cards are the cloak of Christ, and I surge on the uprising wave of love. So the cloak of Christ says, in the school of humanity, you reside on the king's throne. Your soul has been ravaged, and you are succumbing to weariness. That which plagues you is not as powerful as you fear. Exhaustion is not a sign of something that must be done, as much as a sign that something must be received, allowed. Accept divine refuge now. And the other card says, I was raw, I was cooked, I was burned. You are going through a cycle moved by forces stronger than your will. This is a karmic period with grander cycles affecting smaller ones. The smaller ones are not less important, but they do have to bow to the power of the great. Surrender to oneness with the magnificent unfolding divinity that is life itself. So that feels like a beautiful place to close today's reading. If you're listening to this, I am sending you so much love, and I hope that you feel it and really take it in and let yourself receive it and receive love in so many other ways as well, because I feel so much of that coming into your life, and you are so worthy of it just innately, inherently. And I feel like that's just a major theme coming through and something to close with here at the end. Thank you so much for joining me in these readings, and I will connect with you here again in the next one.